Hello, Petal. How the devil are you? How are things going? I am improving day by day, but I'm still wiped out on the grand scale. But at least I can be here and record chapter 11 of the Better Mousetrap J.W. Wells & Co. Book 5. As ever, I shall ask very nicely, please, if you could hit the like button and hit the notifications bell, that would be awesome. Always be notified of the new episodes, or chapters, whichever you'd like to call it. And if you do want to share, by all means, if you want to subscribe, I'd love to have you here. And as always, it's lovely talking to you all. I know I'll repeat myself with this one, but it's always nice how we chat in the comments, and I really do like our little group of people. It's lovely, and of course talk to each other and chat away. It's just lovely to see. I'm just like, no. Right, okay, so we shall do this thing. We've got it, we're on the roll. Right, chapter 11. Ta-da! I'll try that again. I'm sorry. Chapter 11. Mr. Tanner's mother sat at the front desk of her son's poky little office, knitting. Well, of course she did. Knitting is just one of those things mothers do. In her case, she was using 6mm high-tensile steel winch cable, and her drop-forged chrome molybdenum needles were bent like saplings in the breeze as they took the 500-kilo strain required to keep the line taut. It was going to be a baby grow for little Paul Azog. As her needles hummed, knit one, purl one, knit two together, and a quick tack weld at the end of the row, she reflected on her other son, with particular reference to his gullibility and general naivety. No more idea, she told herself sternly but fondly, than next door's cat. Just as well he's got me to look after him. The welder sparkled, showering her knees with white-hot spatter. Instant ruin to tights, but since they were simply an extension of her morphogenic field, no harm done. She shape-shifted into a similar but different auburn-haired beauty wearing an unblemished pair of sheer silk tights and cast on the next row. On balance, she decided, she'd rather have a son who was a bit thick and a bit soft, but who still had time for his old mam, than a hard-nosed, no-nonsense, streetwise offspring like, say, Amelia Carrington. Of course, she didn't believe the rumours about her, and even if they were true, she wouldn't have cared unduly. Tosser Carrington always was a waste of resources, and if his daughter had seen fit to turn him into a hedgehog and dump him on the hard shoulder of the M3, no great loss to the profession or the species. But Dennis would never dream of doing anything like that. He was fond of his mother, and scared shitless of her, of course, but also genuinely fond, which counted for more, she felt, than all the brains in Seattle. Even so, trouble was, the boy wouldn't be told. She tried dropping a few hints on the journey home from the meeting. You do realise he's going to have to kill you. I wouldn't trust that skinny cow as far as I could sneeze her out of a block nostril. That sort of thing. But Dennis had just looked smug and declared that he knew what he was doing, at which point she'd lost patience with him and resolved to save her breath to cool her porridge. Well, Mr. Tanner's mother glanced down at the pattern, sighed, and reached for the wire cutters. Amelia Carrington, she thought. It seemed like only yesterday that she'd been eating a strained pear off a spoon and strangling snakes in her cot. It's a shame they have to grow up. Obviously, she was up to something. Well, that went without saying. Knowing her, something big and flashy, probably some kind of take on world domination. Something involving bauxite, at some level or other. The part that puzzled Mr. Tanner's mother, though, was why she needed to involve young Dennis. That was a mystery. It was also pretty much the only clue she had got. Fortunately, it was a significant one. For all that she was his mother, she had few illusions about her son. He was a perfectly competent private practice magician with an undoubted flair for scrying. But that was all. His rise to a partnership in J.W. Wells & Co. he owed to the slender but tenacious streak of ruthlessness that he'd inherited from her side of the family. The other, human side, had made him sloppy, soft and sentimental. Though, to do him credit, he hid it well. His worst fault was his own unshakable faith in his own cleverness. It wouldn't have mattered too much if he'd been stupid. Idiots with delusions of intelligence never climb up high enough to hurt themselves badly when they fall. It's the level 8 smartasses who think they're level 10s who come badly unstuck, which was what had happened, of course, to Dennis. The other problem, caused by his more significant flaw, was that when he fell, he hadn't fallen quite far enough. If he'd been left broke and destitute after JWW crashed, he'd most likely have quit the frontline magic business and found some nice quiet backwater of the profession in which to live out the rest of his days. But he'd been just sufficiently clever to salvage enough from the wreck to set up his 2 rooms over a chemist shop business of his own, and he was doing just well enough for it to harbour dangerous dreams of getting back into the big time, as and when the one lucky break came along, hence presumably the Carrington bitch's interest. It had to be scrying, Dennis's mother thought, as she twiddled the knobs of the oxypropane torch. It was what he was best at, so it had to be something of the sort. Even so, Amelia Carrington had 24 scryers on her staff who were almost as good, and, more to the point, the scheme she'd told them about didn't actually need the best in the business. Pause. Was Dennis the best in the business? No, but a lot of people in the trade believed he was, or pretty close to it. A frown crossed her face, and for a moment the auburn-haired temptress flickered, and you could have caught a glimpse of the underlying goblin. If Dennis Tanner said there was bauxite under some mountain in New Zealand, that'd be good enough for anybody, but what if there wasn't any? Yes, she thought, but that doesn't make sense. The reason everybody would believe him if he said the new strike was the biggest yet discovered was that he wouldn't say if it wasn't true, and he'd know if Amelia Carrington was trying to trick him. He was definitely good enough for that. That was another defect in his character. Bloody integrity. Not that he wouldn't lie and cheat for money and steal a child's teddy bear from its cot if he knew someone who'd pay him money for it, but as far as scrying was concerned, he told the truth. Everybody knew that. In which case, that had to be the scam. That Carrington bitch must have come up with something that had fooled even the great Dennis Tanner into guaranteeing a strike that didn't exist. Except that was impossible. Ugh. The phone rang. Talk of the... Amelia Carrington, I'd like a quick word with Dennis, please.
Putting you through.
She put her on hold and rang Dennis.
It's that cow on the line, she said. What? Amelia bloody Carrington. On the phone for you. Oh, right. For a moment I thought you were talking about railways.
She sighed.
You want to talk to her or not?
Pause, then.
Yeah, why not? Put her on.
Mr. Tanner's mother would have never dreamed of picking up the phone and listening in on her son's private conversation. With goblin hearing, she didn't need to. Dennis, said the Carrington female. Good news. We've got the satellite pics.
About time.
Yes, well, anyway, they're here on my desk right now. How soon can you come over? The hesitation that followed was so slight that only a mother would have detected it.
I'm a bit tied up right now. Could you have them sent over here?
Good boy, thought Mr. Tanner's mother. I'd rather not, if it's all the same to you. No offence, but somehow I doubt your security is up to our standards. I'm probably being over-fussy, but the last thing I want right now is for these pigs to fall into the wrong hands. I'm sure you understand.
I just wanted to save time, that's all,
Dennis replied, so convincingly that his mother almost believed him herself.
The earliest I can get there is, what's the time now? 6:30. Call it 8:15. Too late for New York or Tokyo.
Nice touch, Mr. Tanner's mother conceded.
Doesn't actually mean anything, but just convincing enough to throw Amelia Carrington off balance for a second or two. If you rush him over here in a taxi right now, we'd still be able to catch Riyadh and possibly New Delhi.
No, sorry. I sort of gave my word I wouldn't let them out of my sight. Look, I'll send a car for you. Okay? See you soon. Followed by a click, meaning end of discussion. Fair enough. When you're Amelia Carrington, you don't need to be subtle, in the same way elephants don't need Wellington boots. A moment later, the dividing door opened and Dennis came in. He was wearing his coat.
You got all that?
He asked. She nodded. You're not going, are you?
Looks like it. Bloody woman.
he added with feeling. Mr. Tanner's mother turned off the gas bottle and stood up. I wish I knew what she was up to.
Only one way to find out.
It's annoying when your son, your own flesh and blood, turns out to have a point.
We won't wait for the cart, she said. I'll get a taxi.
He grinned at her.
You coming then?
No need to answer that. She transformed into a coat-wearing blonde, flipped on the answering machine and reached for the door handle.
For crying out loud, Mum.
What?
Sigh. You can't go out looking like that.
Not the first time they'd had this argument. Her first instinct was to ignore him. Do him good. Make him lighten up a little. But the prospect of him sulking at her all the way there and back again was too tiresome to contemplate. She relented and lengthened her skirt 1 inch. There, she said, in her best humouring with extreme prejudice voice. Is that better?
No, look at yourself, will you?
Scowling, she grabbed her mirror from the front desk. Pause. Oh.
Yes.
2 points in 1 day. She sighed.
Coincidence?
She said.
Really? Yes. You turn into the exact spitting image of Amelia Carrington and it's a coincidence. All right then, it's subconscious. I must have been thinking about her and, whatever.
Just to spite him for being right, she changed into a geisha. Satisfied? She said.
If you insist.
That resigned tone she knew so well.
Actually, it bugged the hell out of Amelia, so yes, why not? Get the taxi.
If he hadn't known Amelia since before she was born, Dennis wouldn't have had the satisfaction of being proved right. The slightest flicker of the eyelashes, the faintest widening of the eyes thereby enclosed, and that was his lot as far as provoking her was concerned. In context it was enough. In fact, it was a triumph. And as always, Mother had known best. Dennis, at last, she said, waving him into a chair and pretending that his exotic companion was invisible. Well, here we are. The photos. There they were indeed. They looked like nothing at all. Your best guess would have been black and white abstract painting by an avant-garde artist with absolutely no imagination. To Dennis Tanner, of course. They were aerial views of a large tract of landscape, taken from a satellite so high up that no man-made feature was large enough to register. He drew one of them across the desk with a fingertip and looked at it. Like being hit across the face with a bike chain, he did his best to mask the shock, but he knew he was too late. Amelia would have seen the brief but extreme look of amazement on his face and appreciated it for what it was. Dennis Tanner, the whole world knew, wasn't easy to impress. Something there, Uncle Dennis, in that sweet little girl voice that made him want to puke. No point trying to dissemble now.
Too bloody right, he said, with deep feeling.
Is it big?
Yes.
Bigger than where Tumba?
I haven't looked at the rest of the pics yet, he said, hedging.
But
give me a chance.
Dennis reached across and grabbed a few more prints at random. It was a bit like catching hold of a live electric cable, but he held on, gritted his teeth, and after a suitable pause muttered,
Yes.
He could have done without the peal of silvery laughter. To distract himself from the surge of irritation washing through his mind, he tried to recall what little he knew about Amelia's mother. According to Tosser, she'd been a wood nymph he'd come across while she was bathing in a remote pool somewhere in the Welsh mountains. Trade scuttlebutt reckoned otherwise, of course. In any event, she must have inherited her flair for the infuriatingly dramatic from her mother's side. Tosser's idea of drama was the last act of Hamlet, dead bodies everywhere, and a horrible untidy mess for someone else to sort out. Besides, were there still wood nymphs in rural Wales in the 1960s? He vaguely remembered something about Macmillan having them all relocated to Swansea. Excellent, Amelia was saying. Our people were pretty sure about it, but I wanted to have it verified by the leading authority before we went any further. Well, thanks ever so much, Uncle Dennis. We really must have lunch sometime. The penny, dropping, never landed. It fell so fast it burnt up in the atmosphere, sprinkling Dennis's mind with droplets of molten copper.
No worries,
he managed to say, nevertheless.
Now, about our partnership.
Not the P word, Uncle Dennis.
All right then. Our joint venture. Don't take this the wrong way, but before we go any further, I'd like to see some paperwork. A draft contract. Something like,
Uncle Dennis. Such a sweet, sad smile. You may be the greatest scryer in the world, but when it comes to business, you're just an old silly. Ominous growl from the corner of the room. Amelia shot a startled glance in that direction, recovered quickly and went on. Really? You know, you should have mentioned it earlier, before you carried out your side of the bargain. Be fair, she added. You don't really expect me to cut you in on a deal this size in return for services already rendered. I'm very grateful, of course, and I know Daddy would have been too, but there it is. If you will go doing jobs for people out of the kindness of your heart, no wonder you've ended up in that squalid little office. The growl became a roar at more or less the same moment that the geisha turned back into a fully grown adult female goblin. Amelia instinctively shrank back in her chair, then rallied gloriously and smiled at her. Uncle Dennis, she said, aren't you going to introduce me to your friend?
My mother, actually.
Of course. The smile widened until it threatened to engulf the planet. Auntie Rosie! How silly of me. I didn't recognise you. She leaned forward a little and peered. You've done your hair differently, haven't you? Like spiders, goblins can move horribly fast. Before she could get within claw's reach, though, Dennis reached out and caught hold of her wrist.
Forget it, Mum, he said.
But that bunny little cow!
Forget it.
Mr. Tanner's mother quivered for a moment, then dissolved back into the geisha, demurely smiling and, as far as Amelia was concerned, non-existent. Look, Amelia said, I don't want to be stingy or anything. Tell you what, I'll give you 0.25% of the net profits for old time's sake. That's what Daddy would have wanted, I'm sure. Take it or... Shrug, which sent her golden hair dancing like Wordsworth's daffodils. It's more money than you'll ever see in your entire life, she said, and all you had to do for it was prod a photograph. That's not a bad evening's work, when you think about it. Dennis Tanner sat quite still for 4 seconds, breathing through his nose.
That's true, he said. Actually, between you and me, I was planning on retiring sometime soon in any case.
Splendid idea, Amelia nodded sharply. High time you got away from the stresses and strains of the business. You can relax, chill out, garden, play golf, glance towards the back of the room, spend some more time with the family. A nice little nest egg's just what the doctor ordered. Dennis sighed and stood up.
That's right, he said. I must be getting old. Lost the knack of judging character. And once that's gone, you're not fit to be let out on your own in this trade. Well, time we were going.
He paused at the door and looked back at Amelia.
You've done pretty well for yourself, he said. Your dad would have been proud.
He opened the door, and then his mother said, Aren't you going to say thank you to the nice lady, after she's given you such a lovely present? Dennis stopped and grinned.
Thanks, he said. I won't forget it in a hurry.
My pleasure, Amelia beamed at him. Enjoy your retirement, Uncle Dennis. Dennis and his mother didn't say anything to each other until they reached the street and found a taxi.
What the hell, Dennis said eventually, was all that about?
His mother thought a bit before answering.
She wants to provoke you into doing something, she replied. Oh, I know that.
Dennis scowled at the back of the driver's neck, giving him a headache that lasted for 3 days.
What though? Bloody woman,
he added petulantly.
Whatever it is,
his mother said firmly,
don't do it, which means, she added, don't do anything. Forget all about it, otherwise it'll all end in tears. You mark my words.
He gave her a don't you start look.
I'm guessing, he said, that what I'm supposed to do now is to try and double-cross her to get my own back. Buggered if I can see how, though.
She nodded.
Just as well. You don't want to go messing with that one, Dennis. She's cleverer than you. Mum, she is, she said firmly, and she's the head of Carrington's, and you, well, she went on. Anyway, don't do anything. Don't give her the satisfaction.
Dennis snarled.
Next to be saying I should think about retiring. Don't be stupid, his mother said reassuringly. And you'll get her back one of these days, just not now, all right? Look, whatever she's got planned, she's relying on you to do something predictable. My guess is her whole plan depends on it, so don't do anything. Then either she'll have to give the whole thing up, which will really piss her off, so that's all right, or she'll come back and have another go. And that may tell us a bit more about what she's got in mind. At the moment, we know bugger all, so anything we do will be playing right into her hands. You do see that, don't you?
Dennis grunted.
I never liked her, he said. Do you remember I bought her a cuddly lion when she was 4 and she never did say thank you?
That's right, his mother nodded. She brought it to life and it ate a plumber before young Ricky Wormtoter managed to get rid of it.
Always had a nasty streak, that one, she sighed. Like I said, you don't want to mess with her. Leave well alone, is my advice.
Dennis stared out of the window for a moment or so.
We won't see a penny of that money, he said. Well, of course not.
He yawned.
I suppose you're right, he said wearily. Forget all about it for now and see if she comes back. Though, he added doubtfully, for all we know, that's exactly what she's expecting us to do. You're right about her being cleverer than me, but has it occurred to you she may be cleverer than you as well?
Mr. Tanner's mother shook her head.
No, she said firmly. Nobody's cleverer than me. Says so in a rule somewhere.
When they'd gone, Amelia Carrington made a few calls. Yes, they told her, it was settling in nicely, eating well, very well, sleeping most of the day, hadn't burned down any more buildings, should be ready to deploy any day now. That made her smile. No, they told her, he's not in the office right now. He must have gone home already. They'd leave a note on his desk to say she'd called. That made her frown, but couldn't be too important. Yes, they told her, and could she speak up? It was a dreadful line. All the legal guff was sorted out, apart from final registration with the Mining and Minerals Commission, and they were pushing that through as fast as possible. No worries. That made her nod and say, fine, carry on. For crying out loud, they told her, did she realise what time it was? Oh, sorry, didn't recognise her voice there for a moment. Yes, all going ahead as per schedule. Finished the heavy blasting and ready to start pouring the concrete as soon as the health and safety people had signed off on the plans. Yes, they were being a bit awkward, but no more than usual. Maybe she could get her people to have a word with them, smooth things over a bit. Attention of Mr. Donaldson. That'd be really helpful. Thanks. Yes, they told her, this is the Health and Safety Executive. Donaldson speaking. Who the hell gave you my home number? And rivet, rivet, rivet. No, they told her, she's not home yet. No, she hadn't said where she was going after work. I'm sorry, it told her. There's nobody here to take your call. Please leave your name and... Amelia put the receiver back, yawned, and tapped her fingers on the desktop. So far, apparently, so good. The look on Uncle Dennis's face. It's so nice, she felt, to deal with people you know you could rely on. And Auntie Rosie, too. Never did like her very much. She frowned. Auntie Rosie was clever, though. Not nearly as clever as she thought she was, and naturally Dennis would do exactly what his mother told him to. She tried to reconstruct the conversation they'd be having at that moment. Somehow she fancied the words, don't give her the satisfaction, would come into it somewhere. True, she hadn't actually factored Auntie Rosie into her calculations, but that didn't matter. She knew exactly what line she'd be taking, and the only effect would be to make Dennis react the way he was supposed to, only slightly faster and with even more grim determination. Well, you would, with something like that nagging at you all day long. Amelia tried Mr. Sprague's office again, but they'd all gone home and the switchboard was down for the night, which reminded her. She reached for the phone and called Colin Gomez. Colin, she said briskly, why hasn't that Spitzer girl been killed yet? Pause.
She has,
he replied awkwardly. No, she hasn't, Colin. I know for a fact she's still alive.
Well, yes, she's still alive, but I've killed her, twice.
Oh, she clicked her tongue. Well, you know what they say? Third time lucky.
Certainly, yes. I'll get onto it right away.
Pause.
Actually, I was thinking...
Yes?
Well...
Pause.
Since she will insist on coming back to life again, I thought maybe a slightly more oblique approach, possibly slanted more in the getting her out of the way direction, as opposed to actual life termination.
Don't be silly, Colin. Look, as of now, I'm authorising the use of extreme measures, up to and including tactical nukes. Things are starting to move at the New Zealand end. That stupid prophecy is hanging over me like the sword of what's-his-name, and I don't want to be held up and lose out on a rising market because of a silly little girl. Do you understand? Amelia didn't need to see him to know what expression he had on his face. Poor Colin. He can be so sweet sometimes.
Yes, certainly, of course, right away.
Excellent. What's her status at the moment?
I've got her in a Thomasek trap. She's in holding down in the basement.
Pause.
Do you want me to?
Yes.
Of course. Right away. Certainly.
That's very nice of you, Colin. Thanks. Ciao. In his office 2 floors below, Colin Gomez pushed away from his desk and shuddered. In his view of the universe, all it took to make the world go round was for everybody to work hard, pull together for the good of the firm, keep the clients happy, and always charge slightly more than the job was worth. Management philosophies based on the balance of greed and terror had never appealed to him much, however fashionable they might be in the world at large. Employees, he reckoned, were like tubes of toothpaste, there to be squeezed, but only from the right end. He tried not to browbeat or bully, if he could help it. As for actually killing junior members of staff, it was something he preferred to avoid whenever possible. However tactful and discreet you were about it, inevitably it led to tension and bad feeling in the workplace, which in turn reduced output and efficiency and encouraged a distrustful us-and-them approach, which was the exact opposite of the way things ought to be. But a direct order from the senior partner wasn't open to question, and if Amelia Carrington wanted the Spitzer girl disposed of, that really ought to be good enough for him. He sighed, thinking about her for a moment. True, she was a good worker, professional, got the job done with a minimum of fuss, but her attitude towards the clients had never really quite come together. He couldn't help thinking she'd never quite understood that a client was like a beautiful fruit tree, to be nurtured, cared for, pollinated and pruned. She'd always given the impression that clients were just another nuisance arranged by the malevolent universe to make her job slightly more awkward, which just went to show the senior partner always knows best. The secret of survival in middle management is the ability to recognise the new truth, even when it was heresy and sin only 10 minutes ago. Colin Gomez had been a partner in Carrington's for 20 years. When the boss told him something, he believed, in which case Emily Spitzer had to go. A pity. Omelettes and eggs. The only remaining question was, how? There are proverbially more ways of killing a cat than drowning it in cream. Sure, the problem in this case was persuading it to stay dead. Cagliari's marvellous tree hadn't managed to get the job done, which reminded him it was still under warranty, so at the very least he should be able to get the money back. A rogue Atkinsoni, kitted out at ruinous expense with a cyanide gas-proof cybernetic breather unit, hadn't cut it either. More to the point, the better Mousetrap, which should have guaranteed immunity from all this now she is, now she isn't nonsense, had failed spectacularly. He sighed and scratched his head. They have a slightly different version of the proverb in the magic biz. If drowning in cream is what it takes, buy a cow. Easier said than done, when the cat is at least 9 lives and can swim. Colin Gomez was a methodical, analytical sort, not given to wild whoops of intuition, but perfectly capable of digging away at a mystery until he'd unearthed the taproot. If Emily Spitzer kept coming back to life again, it could only be because A, someone was protecting her, and B, that someone had access to some pretty impressive technology. Trying to figure out who that someone was would, he felt, be difficult and take too long. The technology, on the other hand, ought to be reasonably easy to identify. When you don't know the answer, look it up. He leaned across his desk and picked up his copy of the Carrington's Office Procedures Manual, Index, Death, Avoidance Thereof. 10 minutes later, he had a short list. Hiroshige's quantum chicane, possibly. The chicane allowed you to zip backwards and forwards between alternate realities. It was basically the same technology that had enabled him to keep track of Emily's deaths and resurrections without getting hopelessly confused, although he had the read-only version rather than the one that actually took you there. Even so, it was really only an observation and research tool with academic and tourism potential. You could look at alternate futures or even visit them, but you couldn't change anything while you were there. And you certainly wouldn't reprioritise the defaults and replace your own timeline with a different one that happened to suit you better. So unless a mysterious someone had found a way of banjaxing the safeties and reconfiguring the entire feed system, it couldn't be the chicane. Mississippi micro-industry synthetic angel. A distinct possibility. Using advanced wish fulfillment technology, which some authorities declared was still only theoretical, the angel allowed you to rewind unsatisfactory episodes in your life and record over them inside a bubble of very high-resolution synthesized reality that overlaid your original timeline. It meant you could go back and edit out your mistakes, even potentially fatal ones, but with the significant drawback that you had to spend the rest of your life isolated in a world of your own. And if you wanted to do that, there were easier and cheaper ways. What you couldn't do, as far as Colin knew, was transfer the effect to anybody else, which more or less ruled out the angel. Oh well, the Acme portable door. The what? All right, that. Colin Gomez had heard of it, naturally. Everybody in the trade had. He just wasn't quite sure he believed in it. If it really did exist, then it shouldn't. It broke all the fundamental rules of the business, and to a serious practitioner like Colin, it was virtually an insult to his years of training and patient study. If there really was such a thing, of course, and if some irresponsible idiot had got hold of it and was using it to mess about with timelines and raise the dead, well, it fitted all the known facts. You could get the job done with it. And there weren't any other possibilities. Therefore, as Sherlock Holmes would have said, index again, door portable, he found the place and started to read. The Carrington's Office Procedures Manual devoted 40 pages to the portable door. 8 of those pages were a closely reasoned explanation of why the door couldn't possibly work and therefore had to be mythical. A further 12 set out in considerable detail the letters you had to write and the file notes you had to make in order to notify the firm's insurers if you came across one. There were 9 pages of awful warnings, ways in which careless use of the door could spell the end of sentient life in the galaxy, and 10 more setting out the firm's procedure for getting the senior partner's written approval before using it, should you ever get your hands on one. The remaining page gave a very sketchy history of the thing, how it had been developed in total secrecy by the brilliant maverick and former J.W. Wells partner Theo Van Spee, late Professor of Magic at the University of Leiden, how he'd originally made 2, using a prototype to copy itself, but see page 277, note 3, but only 1 had survived, and its whereabouts were currently unknown, although there were unsubstantiated rumours connecting it to a former JWW employee, name unknown, who had used it to defeat the Fae and unmask and then defeat Professor Van Spee himself. Anomalous Mortensen readings had been interpreted by some authorities to mean that the door had recently been used somewhere in New Zealand, but see page 1866 and Appendix 12, although their findings had been disputed by other researchers in the field. There was a final paragraph, in bold type. It is the policy of the firm that the portable door does not exist. Any member of staff coming into possession of it or having information concerning its location or recent door activity should notify the senior partner without delay. Not many grey areas there. If he was right, Emily Spitzer was being helped by someone with the door. Whether she was aware of it or not was another matter entirely. And the book said quite explicitly, recent door activity. A memo, at the very least, seemed to be called for. Colin reached for the microphone of his dictating machine and cleared his throat. And hesitated, because Amelia Carrington was much, much more intelligent than he was, otherwise she wouldn't be the senior partner, in which case it stood to reason that she must also have applied her noble mind to the problems he'd just been chasing around in his mental mulberry bush, and had reached the same conclusions, in which case, if she figured out that the door was involved, why hadn't she seen fit to brief him on the subject? He obviously had a need to know if he was supposed to get rid of Emily. Oh dear, he thought. Colin didn't phrase it more strongly than that, because you don't swear at the senior partner, even in the privacy of your own mind. It took significant effort to restrain himself, though. For one thing, it didn't make sense. Why on earth wouldn't she tell him about something so important? Clearly she wanted the Spitzer girl disposed of. She hadn't said why, but was under no obligation whatsoever to provide reasons, just as the brain doesn't have to justify itself to the hand. But the brain doesn't tell the hand to reach out when it knows perfectly well that there's an armoured glass window in the way. Pause and rewind. The brain wouldn't do that, sure, but it might order the hand to pick up a lump of metal it knew was red hot and not tell the hand because it suspected the hand might not feel like getting burnt that day. Colin Gomez believed in a divine right of management. Part of that right was sacrificing the occasional pawn in the interest of the grand strategy. All very well assuming you're not a pawn. He liked to think of himself as a bishop, though if he was going to be realistic, a castle would be nearer the mark. In any event, a major piece, as opposed to cannon fodder. Expendable, though. Somehow he'd never quite imagined himself as that. Other people, yes. Himself, no. He was jumping to conclusions. He knew that. Even so, why else would Amelia Carrington keep him in the dark about the wretched door thing? All right. Maybe it wasn't necessarily as sinister as he was assuming, but even if he wasn't for the chop, terms such as scapegoat, fall guy, cat's paw, deniability, unwitting tool splattered like summer flies on the windscreen of his mind, he frowned and upgraded oh dear to damn. Slowly, very reluctantly, he got up from his chair. This wasn't right. Part of him was bitterly ashamed of the rest of him for thinking this way. Instead, it should be saying something along the lines of, my deepest regret is that I have but one life to give for my senior partner. It was what he'd have expected someone else to say. The junior clerical grades, the assistant magicians, even the associates and the non-equity partners, and the higher the rank and dignity, he couldn't help feeling, the greater the obligation. All fine and splendid, except when it applied to him. Bloody woman, Colin Gomez thought. Oh well. He left his office, closing the door behind him, and pottered slowly along the corridor and down the stairs, eventually ending up outside the strong room. He turned the various keys and recited the various security spells, walked in and nosed around for a bit until he found what he was looking for, a small brown paper bag filled halfway with long pointy teeth. Ironic, he thought, as he locked up behind him. These were the teeth that Emily Spitzer had personally gouged out of the mouth of the last dragon she'd sorted out. According to the strong room inventory, there were 46 of them, each one conservatively valued at $12,000. He did the maths and shuddered. It was an awful lot of money. Premium-grade dragon's teeth were greatly in demand, especially these days, with the boom in the private security sector. Phil Hook would skin him alive at the next finance meeting. Maybe it wouldn't need all of them just to get rid of one short girl. Down 2 flights of stairs, unlock a huge steel door whose rusty hinges groaned as he forced it open, down the vertiginous spiral stone staircase that seemed to go on forever. At last he reached another door, oak-studded with ancient hand-forged iron nails, etched parched grain, scarred with scorch marks and axe cuts, to the point where the little printed notice saying "No admittance" was probably a bit superfluous. This door had no key, because it had no lock. Unnecessary. It was a genuine, original Parker Shaw uniface and existed on one side of the wall only. Colin Gomez laid his hand on the blackened iron latch and pressed down. Well, so, why does Amelia Carrington want rid of Emily? Where's Frank at? No doubt sulking over in New Zealand. What's happening on with Dennis Tanner and his mam? Rosie's a bit of a champ. I've always liked her. Please excuse the accent as usual. But yes, Amelia, and Colin, you slimy toad. Don't like you. No, not one bit. Anyway, thank you very much for listening this far. And if you have been able to get this far, please leave us a little dragon in the comments. If you do want to leave a comment, which is always nice, but you don't have to, but it's always nice to see them. I am very much hoping to bring you another episode either tomorrow or the next day if my voice holds out. It is a bit up and down right now, but I am doing my very, very best for you guys because you guys are awesome. And thank you very much for all your understanding and kindness. I very much appreciate you. So, stay safe, take it easy, and I'll see you in a couple of days, Petal.